Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce to you and through you to all members in the chamber my courageous friends Kerri Workman and her partner Malcolm Eyjolfson. They're from Calgary and they are seated in your gallery. They're here today at the Legislature to speak to two ministries about the choking game and what can be done to prevent children from taking part in it and keep them safe. I'd like to ask them to rise and please receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pass-out challenge, knockout game, space cowboy, cloud9. These are some of the names the choking game is known by. It's a risky practice of self-asphyxiation that many kids engage in, bringing themselves to the brink of passing out, and sadly, some kids suffer brain injuries, and some kids die. In October 2014, at the age of 11, my friend Kerri's son, Bryce Eyjolfson, was playing the game and she didn't know about it until she discovered him lifeless in his room. Most parents don't know about the choking game. Many school-aged kids do know about the game and probably know someone who's playing it. Sometimes we hear reports of the choking game and deaths in the media, but rarely do we hear about injuries or near misses, or about education or prevention. Deaths from the choking game are often classified as suicide, and Kerri and her partner Malcolm had to push to have their son's death reclassified. It was originally listed as suicide. Among the many videos available online, there are those that show how to play the choking game. Kerri has offered to share her experiences with several ministers here today, and I join her in the effort to bring attention to this dangerous practice and to urge more education both for the public and in our schools, so we can keep our kids safe and families from having to experience the deep grief I've seen my friends go through. I urge all of my colleagues to meet with Kerri and Malcolm while they're here to learn about the impact of the choking game and to raise awareness. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A 2015 review in the Archives of Disease in Childhood found that between 5 and 7% of kids engage in the choking game, often alone. Many kids are aware of the practice, and 17 to 40% of youth think there are no risks. Very sadly, 93% of parents of choking game victims are surprised to discover their child's participation because it often leaves no observable signs. To the Minister of Health, how are you equipping Alberta healthcare providers to recognize the signs and educate people about the choking game?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for her question, and certainly want to recognize the family that's here today. And I couldn't imagine the grief that must be experienced when you say goodbye to a child. No parent should ever have to go through that, Mr. Speaker. And certainly one of the big pieces we need to do is ensure that everyone is aware that self-harm is risky, that there are consequences that come with self-harm. And whether it leaves bruises or not, it doesn't mean that you're doing something that's safe. So, Mr. Speaker, certainly education to youth, to families, and to healthcare providers. It's a three-pronged approach. But again, our deepest sympathies to the family.
For supplemental.
There's much awareness of and concerningly high participation rates in the choking game among youth aged 4 to 20. They are learning about the choking game from online sources and from their peers. To the Minister of Education, when will the provincial health curriculum include information about the risks of the choking game throughout our children's education?
The Honourable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the member for the question. And certainly, we've been looking through the curriculum as part of our new curriculum writing process for places where we can improve and strengthen personal safety. And certainly, this specific behaviour and in general does take place in the kindergarten to grade 9 health program now, but I think it bears upon all of us to be responsible to strengthen that position and to remind ourselves on a regular basis about both the gravity of the situation and the fact that there are students that are engaging in this kind of behavior.
Second supplemental.
It's hard to develop strategies to address the choking game without good data, and there's a lack of consistent reporting about choking game deaths. Deaths are often recorded as suicide, leaving families without closure for their children's death, and it means a lack of accurate data. To the Minister of Justice, what will you do to improve the way child deaths are recorded so that we can know how many kids die this way and so their families can have a little peace in very distressing circumstances?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Solicitor General.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and to the member again for the important question. The member is correct. It is very difficult to move these items forward without ensuring that we're collecting accurate data. Mr. Speaker, I've been very lucky to work with our current Chief Medical Examiner to ensure accuracy of data collection in a number of areas. And Mr. Speaker, I'll be happy to have those conversations and follow up offline with the member.